Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time zone that you're in, and welcome to this webinar on how to use the GMAT, how to get into IESE. So I have two guests here, Dr. Hubert, welcome, and Ayush, welcome to this webinar, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks a
So,
lot, Rajat.
so
Thank you.
before I
Of
get
course,
started, I
pleasure.
think
Thank you as well.
it's probably good if you guys can give a brief introduction about who you are. We'll start with Ayush, you, and then we'll go to Dr. Huber. Just your background and what is it that you're currently doing that I think would help our audience.
Sure, Rajat. Thank you so much for this. So I come from Shimla, Himachal, right? A small town but a beautiful place in India. I did my bachelor's as a part of my first graduation, I would say, the first studies that I did, which was in computer science. And that brought me really close to technology. But then immediately after that, I went to do an MBA from IIT Roorkee, right? It was a great experience, and both these two knowledge wins together helped me move into SaaS industry. I worked there for a year, worked with several international clients, helped them to transform the way they use business and how technology can come in. But then I got a very exciting opportunity to start working with e-governance foundation, and this was a non-for-profit Mr. Nandan Nilekani backed foundation, and we
Oh,
started to
wow.
work with government of India on national digital transformation projects. And the entire experience for 3-4 years was really nice, and it showed me that technology, while being leveraged at multiple points, also has a very good use case in sustainability as well as societal improvements, right? So that was really exciting for me. And then I thought that I started researching, and I saw that a lot of work around sustainability is being done in EU, right? So they're working on carbon emissions and how to get to net zero. They're also bringing in different laws. And I thought that this is the best time to be there in Europe, try and understand how technology can shape up all these sustainability requirements that are coming up. And EU is just the first case, I would say, because eventually this will spread across the world, go to states and come to Asia. And I thought that if I'm there right now, I can learn things, I can see how they're being implemented, and then bring this back to different parts of the world and help the world achieve net zero, right? So that motivated me to move towards EU and do an MBA and see how I can get more closer to sustainability and develop a network here that will help me to learn. Yeah, so
Perfect. So you said, okay, you saw a trend. You said this is going to spread like wildfire. Let me just get to where the cutting edge of it is happening, and then let's go there. And that's you're currently studying at IESE.
yeah, so I'm currently here at IESE doing another MBA, but yeah, really different from the previous one. I'll talk about it as we go down the
Absolutely.
discussions. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Huber, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, very fast. So basically, I'm French. I had not planned to stay in America. But it happened that finally, when I was 22, I applied to several programs. I got accepted to Cornell, Duke, and Georgetown. I didn't have the money to study in the US, so I did a double degree between France and the US, and where I got my PhD. So I'm an academic, and my expertise is test and curriculum development, and as well, of course, admission consulting. Okay, I started to work in India with during the COVID, where we had to. It was difficult to. There was no way we could go to the office, and that's when I met wonderful people like Ayush, who is also that I know well. Every time I go to Barcelona, we meet, and we have lunch together with the rest of the Indian community at IESE. Okay.
All right, that's wonderful. All right, so we're going to talk about we talked about your motivation to do an MBA. So let's talk. We're going to talk about your GMAT. We're going to talk about your admissions. We're going to talk about what your experience at IESE overall, and you've kind of already hinted why Europe for you. But let's kind of start with the GMAT. So you said got to go to Europe. I want to understand how sustainability works. How does it work as a profitable endeavor? And so you thought of doing an MBA, and so how did you start with the GMAT? What are some of the early challenges? And I know you got a 730, you improved from V30 to V40. So tell me a bit more about what are the challenges and how did you overcome those?
Sure. I would say that the seed for a global MBA was way before I got in touch with the sustainability trend, because as I moved out of IIT Roorkee and I started to work, I realized that I was in a hurry doing my first MBA. I should have waited, gained some professional experience, because that's when you sit in the classroom, you can relate to some of your experiences and ask those good quality questions and get your concepts really cleared. So I would say that, immediately after my passing out from IIT Roorkee, it was almost 2019 when I thought I want to do GMAT and I want to go out and do another MBA, right? But this time after 4 or 5 years of experience, and I
Got
started
it.
exploring a lot of stuff. I started reading GMAT Club, understanding experiences of different students, right? I also started sorting out the best platforms that were available for this preparation, the best material that was available, and doing some sort of price versus how many days do I get the
Oh,
platform for, sort of a comparison, right? But for me, and as I was doing my own practices because I had already given CAT, so I realized that one thing which was really difficult was creating a schedule, right? Creating a schedule while working was really
mhm.
important. And then not just a schedule which is non-dynamic, right? You just make something and I'll do this, something that can actually help you identify your weaknesses and understand that where do I want to stress more and what are my strengths, where I can relax a bit. And when I came to e-GMAT on GMAT Club, I saw students writing that, the personalized study planner really helped me a lot. And I was really excited to explore what this is, because I felt that one of my biggest challenge can be solved by this. So I did my first mock on e-GMAT, which was a free mock. And I did that. I got a 650-ish, if I remember it correctly. And
Got it.
verbal was the weaker area. But then the next thing that e-GMAT did was got in touch with me. I spoke to one of your representatives, which was really nice, showed me what were my weaknesses, and also gave me a dynamic plan that moved around as I gave quizzes. That was really exciting. And for me at that moment, I thought that, okay, this takes away a lot of pain point. I don't have to focus on adjusting my plans. I just have to sit there for 3 hours, do whatever is prescribed to me like a doctor does, and then things will come out to be good. So that was a good eye catcher for me.
Okay. So, and this is, I think, really, really important. It's actually really important in two contexts because you talked about taking a Sigma X mock, and today we announced. So I don't know if you know the new format of the GMAT with the Focus Edition right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a completely changed format, and today we announced our Focus Edition mock. We are actually the first test prep company to announce completely adaptive mocks. So it's interesting that you talk about those, but about how the mock gave you insights. It told you what your strengths, what your weaknesses were. The second thing, I mean, you said you're already taken the CAT, so of course, quant was more or less set for you probably,
yeah.
and and you probably were at that V29, V30 mark at that point, and quant was probably there at what Q49, Q50 already.
Yeah.
So you saw the plan, you knew the strengths, you knew the weaknesses, and you said, and you just said, everything's set for me, and I've got to execute. But was it that? I mean, did you just execute, or were there roadblocks in your way?
No, I mean, that was a good starting point for me because a lot of pain points went away. But then verbal being the second part of challenge that I had to overcome still was there, right? So the best thing was the way the verbal course in e-GMAT was structured. It really helped me a lot because I started with some basic concepts. I tested them within the theory that I was learning, and the system told me that, okay, this part is still left out, and this part is still, and this is good, right? So those mini quizzes that were embedded in the theory
We
concepts was really nice, right? Yeah,
The in-place assessments that were there, because every learning activity is scored, so you got a feedback saying, oh, it's less than
absolutely.
80%, so you got to go back, revise, don't move forward.
Absolutely. So there were good go and stop signs in the course structure itself telling me that I need to repeat or I don't need to repeat. So that was really nice. And the next thing was that there were mini quizzes that I could do, right? So once I was done with the concept, it wasn't that I have to sit and give an entire mock altogether. Rather, I could just select certain aspects of verbal saying that, okay, today I want to do 3 reading comprehensions, and I just took them as a quiz which was timed. It gave me the same sort of pressure because the clock was moving, but I didn't have to do 3 hours of rigorous mocks every
Just
day
to
to refine
evaluate
myself.
yourself on RC, yes.
Yeah, so it's like before playing the match, you can go to the nets and just practice on those balls which you are uncomfortable on, and then you go out there and play. So I would say it's not just the personalized study plan. I mean, that was a good starter, but the way the course was designed made sure that most of the hindrances that I was facing were taken away, or at least I was made aware of them then in itself, and not
Yeah.
realizing that after 2 weeks or 3 weeks of work.
Yeah, I think that's the core piece. It's just that we give you all the tools, and what you just mentioned. Two people in e-GMAT, at least two, not if not more, would be really happy. One is Payal, who built the course architecture, and the next is Abhi, who's built all the tech platform, and I think both of them would be really happy because there's a lot of effort that goes in building the course. A lot of people see me, they don't see them enough. Although you hear Payal, but you don't see Abhi, you don't see Payal in these interviews. But they are the ones who actually and their teams correspond, their respective teams are the ones who actually deliver the goods that you guys utilize, and then they'll be really happy because um, for example, in tech and content, we've spent about $10 million over the last decade or so just building
Wow.
this, and so that's something that's phenomenal. Now, but the other piece which is there is the tools are there. You still have to act on them, as you say.
Yeah.
You see the stop signs, but lots of people won't stop. You actually stop. You revise those pieces, and then you improved on this. And where the metrics didn't make sense, you went back and did the root cause analysis. Now, V30 to V40. V40 is a 91st percentile. It's not something that a lot of people get to. When you took the test and you got out of that you got that 730. What was that feeling that you had?
I was very happy. I mean, I was so happy to see that score, and that was me first time giving a GMAT. So I was like, wow. I was aiming for a 720, I would say, and especially the last quizzes that I gave on the platform showed me that even at a hard level, I was doing good, 60-70%, and mock 4 and 5 were also fairly placed at around 710, 720. I was expecting, but there's always this nerve of the D-Day that pulls down your score. But I feel that giving those mocks at e-GMAT made me very comfortable to how the real test was back then, and I was really excited to see that okay, it's always good when the predicted value goes on to meet the actual value. That means that there's no gap. Both positives and negatives are bad. So I was really excited and I was very happy.
And I'm really happy to hear that as well, because we at e-GMAT pride in ourselves and with regards to our metrics, and it's not just the mock metrics, which you talk about 720, 710 scores, but it's also the fact that you hit those accuracy metrics in Scholaranium not once, not twice, but probably 8 to 10 times in every section, and that is what helps you get there. There are a couple of questions there. This contemporary survivor, he says, "Hi, sirs. Just please don't address anyone as sirs. You can call me Rajat. You can address Dr. Hubert as Dr. Hubert, but don't call us sir. Or if Payal joins, then don't call her ma'am." Hi has this question, which is, how long did it take for you to go from that 650 to a 730? And I think explain the context in terms of days as well as approximate number of hours that you probably spent on
No, sure, sure. So I would say around 4 months, but then I did 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening every day on those in those 4 months, right? Which meant that it is tough. I had to get up early because I have to start my work at 8, which means I'll get up at 4. I'll sit by 5, and I'll come back. I'm really tired, but I'll force myself to do that daily work because it's like you put in those incremental units every day to get a good result in the end, right? No parties, no hangouts, no friends for 4 months, and I'm just doing that.
So actually, I wanted to elaborate a bit more on that. So how did you get those 3 hours in the morning? I mean, what changes did you have to do to extract those 3 hours? And then when you say no parties and no friends, you say, I mean, I think that's a bit more extreme. But how did you manage the personal disappointments? I think those two things I want to understand.
No, no, absolutely. I mean, different people will have different ways of doing it. For me, I thought that, just give it all in right now. So I'm usually one who enjoys sleeping, right? I'll wake up at the very last moment. But then during those 4 months, I saw 4 a.m. What does it look like to be up at 4 a.m., seeing those dark mornings? So that was one, making sure that I get up early, and I'll start with one piece as per my personalized plan, saying that, okay, let's pick up verbal right now with a fresh brain, and we'll do those quizzes of various different sections, right? Put in those 3 hours and then go work, come back. The mind is a little less sharper, but then quant being a stronger area, I started to test it post dinner. right? And then in terms of family and friends, I would say that I was really open and I communicated well. I told them that I am doing this instead of just not telling it to anyone. Rather, I explained this to my really close friends, my fiance, my parents, that for the next 4 months, if you hear less of me, feel good that I'm working really hard towards something, right? So I made sure that everyone knew it, everyone was supportive of this, and I don't have to give certain excuses to different set of people and then hide away and come back and study. So I made it as open as possible for everyone to know that I'm on this.
And again, I just want to, without taking names, if you can answer this, were there people who were unhappy with the fact that you're doing this, and because of this, you couldn't hang out with them? And how did you deal with it?
I would say
I want to go there because it happens with people. Let me
no,
just
no,
be
no,
very
absolutely, absolutely. I won't say that they were unhappy, but also my parents were not able to understand this rationale as to why at this age I was 28, I was earning good, I was all settled in my life, I already had an MBA, right? So it was difficult for them to understand why do I want to put myself through this difficult journey again, and why do I want to cut off and then after every third or fourth day when my parents were calling me, they would tell me that you don't have time for us, and I had to reiterate the fact that I'm going through this, it's just a shorter period. The more effort that I put in, the early I get out of this, and then I'll be with you. So I feel that communicating effectively well and addressing the point that is in hand is really important, and you have to be open about it for others to understand. I had to sit with them and explain them why do I want to do that, help them visualize how carbon emission is something that will come up. And especially back in India, we are not at that stage right now that we are thinking of this, right? There are other problems that we have to solve first. But I believe in the next 10-15 years, we'll be there thinking of this, having solved everything. So helping them visualize journey that's 15 years ahead was tricky, but I would say patience in communicating it well is the key.
But there's something I think a fundamental piece which I think is really valuable that you really said. It's not just about communicating once. You may have to communicate the same thing again and again, and don't hesitate to do that if you have to do it. Because in the end, don't expect people around you to understand things in the first go, because it's your effort, it's your journey, but they are the ones who are missing out on things.
Yes,
So it's okay to tell them the same thing again and again and again and again.
absolutely. Yeah.
And that I think is really, really important as a leader, as an individual, as someone who's a friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. That's something which is really important. Don't hesitate to communicate again, and don't get frustrated, because it's you who's going to gain. So you have to do that additional work as well. It's not just about studying; it's also about this communication that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Repetition is the key.
Communications is absolutely key, and
Exactly.
that's a really valuable lessons for
But at the same time, you see, Rajat, he was,
Dr. Hubert. Yes, please.
so I know Ayush well, but at the same time, it was worth it. Huh? Yeah. What you have done, waking up every day at 4 o'clock, that's something he never told me, but it was really worth it. I think that we don't regret now, because I know the type of life that he has in Barcelona. So maybe it's a good introduction to the second part, to the life at. But if you want to ask a question, Rajat, the question about maybe about IESE.
Absolutely. I think that's it. I just want to address one thing. I have this question by Aniket. Aniket, if you write to us, write to me at rajat@e-gmat, and Prakriti, if you can put in my email address there, we can definitely help you strategize that 6:30 to 7:30 improvement. But then, yeah, let's talk about your MBA. And so the GMAT's done, you have the 7:30 right now. And you knew you wanted to get to Europe. So how did you go about thinking about IESE, and you knew Europe, but IESE, and which other schools did you apply to, and then how did you go about preparing your application? If you could really address those aspects, and then Dr. Hubert, I think this is a part where you come in and ask the next set of questions.
Sure, sure. So I'll just quickly begin. Like I said, that geography was key for me. I wanted to be here in Europe. And then through some of the posts on LinkedIn, I got in touch with Dr. Hubert. So there are some schools that are always on top of your head being an Indian, because of the fact that they are English speaking countries and we are more comfortable, right? So INSEAD would be one, even though it's in France, but INSEAD. And then you think of Oxford, you think of LBS, and Oxford seems to be much bigger of a brand than anything else.
Being Indians, yes.
right? So I just knew about them. But then when I started interacting with Dr. Hubert, he told me that there are some amazing schools out there. He exposed me to IESC, IE, and then I started reading about them, and I was amazed to see that IESC being there in the top 10 over the last 10 years with amazing faculty support opportunities, right, was totally in my blind spot because of the fact that it's a Spanish speaking country and you are always looking for easier places to go in. So I would say that Dr. Hubert actually introduced me to IESE and asked me to, make it one of my target schools. And the more I researched, I was amazed. I could see a lot of gaps that I wanted to fill in that IESE would help me to actually fill in. First was case method, right? So IESE is among those few schools that does cases throughout the academic year and not just in some of the classes, right? And I feel that learning from cases is the best way because that's very close to learning on job, and there's a situation, you go through it, you read it, there's no right or wrong, you just have to analyze the problem there and then solve it. So nobody's going to give those theory to me that I already had from my previous MBA. I rather wanted to get into different sort of situations and see how would I react and how would I solve it. So that was one. But then as I started speaking to different alumni at IESE, I realized that it's a very close network, right? I started sending LinkedIn messages to different people from different schools, and most of the responses that I got back were from students of ESA or IESE, which showed me that they still care for the school and they still care for the upcoming batch with the same
Just
passion.
to interrupt,
Sorry,
clarify.
yeah.
These were alumni, not current students, when you
No,
say.
so these were alumni. Right?
Okay.
These were the ones that are already there working just to understand, because the current students do not get may not get the true picture because you will understand of the internal environment. But once you walk out, you join a firm and you spend some time there, that is when you realize how good the network is, how good the MBA was, how much did it actually help you. So I thought that I'll get in touch with some alums and not just the uh, current students. And I saw a lot of ESA alums, getting back to me, giving me some space for coffee chats to understand from them what I can do. Is it a good step or not? Which told me that it's a close network. And thirdly, it had opportunities beyond consulting and finance. I mean, all the other schools are really heavy on consulting and finance. I was not someone who wants to get into this. Rather, I want to go into implementation and do those sustainability stuff on ground and see, okay, what works and what doesn't. So I also wanted a school that is good in industries, has a solid reputation in different industries, and can actually give me an opportunity there. So yeah, these were really attractive points. And then yeah.
Okay. So Dr.
No,
Uber
yes.
introduced
So
you to
basically, Rajat.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dr.
No,
Uber.
basically, sorry. Peter. So basically, what I want to say, what you have to understand, is that you have to have the matrix in mind. Okay, and Indians usually they don't really understand what is going on. A school like IAC received 5,000 application. Okay, probably out of the 5,000 application, out of the 5,000, 500 will receive an offer. You see, and 400 will accept the offer because of course IAC competes against INSEAD, LBS, HEC,
Mhm.
and also against other US schools because it's a 2-year program. Okay, so the format of IAC was designed by Harvard Business School, so they have the same program as the US program. By the way, the amphitheater is the same as Harvard Business School. So by the way, when you go to IAC, you have a shock because you have the feeling that you're at Harvard. Okay, so when one day if you go to visit Harvard, you see Ayush, you see that the classrooms look exactly the same. You have to see that they will take out of the 400 students who are at IAC, 40 are Indians. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah.
How,
In
how,
my
You know that
how
10%
many are
are
Indians you
Indians,
said?
so they have from the statistic that I have, they have 40 Indian. You have 40 Indian students. You see 40. That's the statistic that I have. They have about 40, and we see it's even more difficult than that. So and you have 2,000 Indian applicants. So if you make the ratio fast, it is 8%.
Wow.
Okay, so you have 8% chance of being accepted when you're in Indian. And Rajat, it's not even that. Okay, because you have to consider that that probably an Indian is not an Indian. Okay, so what does it mean to be ethnically an Indian? You have to see that you have Indians like Ayush who have lived in their life all their life in India. Okay, and it competes against Indians like you kids, Rajat. Okay, who are probably Americans or Indian Americans. I don't know what they are. Um, and who have lived abroad. And probably, so we say out of the 40 who are there, 20 are already, so they are ethnically Indians, but they already lived abroad. So if you consider the difficulty, maybe you have 2 or 3% chance of being accepted as an Indian. Okay, and so that's a real challenge. Okay, that's why when Indians apply to a top business school, whether it be in Europe or in the US, okay, they have to be ready to. They will get a lot of no's, a lot of no's. Okay, that's why we apply usually to 10, 12 schools, and sometimes we add another 4 or 5 to make sure that they get in because it's difficult. We see Rajat already getting IE for an Indian. It's already a challenge. It's already a big achievement. Okay. Me, I had, for instance, students from Africa who got accepted to HEC with a 590 and they got a scholarship with a 590. Okay. In India, if you have less than 700, don't even consider the top 5 European business school. And Ayush will agree with that. So basically, it was a real challenge. So when you apply from India, it is very difficult. And plus, the other challenge that Ayush had, that he is already an IIM graduate. Okay, so he has a sort of MBA. Okay, even though probably what you call MBA or PGP in India is more an MIM than an MBA. Okay, there's another issue, and we had to spend time explaining that to US programs. Now, of course, so some US programs will refuse if you already have an MBA, they don't accept you. European schools are pretty open, and they understand that basically a IIM degree is more an MIM than an MBA because it's a sort of junior MBA that you complete without education, without work
Mhm.
experience, and that's something very, very common in Europe because even IESE now as an MIM that they opened 4 years ago, and their program is based in Madrid. I was there yesterday, by the way. So that's
So
that's the thing to know. So
I just
that's
want to
why.
on that.
Uh,
I so I understand. It's really really challenging to get in, and I think that those stats are really really helpful, Dr. Hubert. I think that's really helpful over there. So given the challenges, given that low acceptance rate, or in IESE and other top European schools as well, I'm very sure. I think the rates are very similar in INSEAD and LBS as well. So when you looked at the IESE application, Ayush, what were some of the most challenging things that you saw? It's like, hey, the GMAT's done now. These are the next chasms that I need to cross, and then what was your approach to crossing those chasms?
Yeah. I mean, GMAT is just half. Giving the GMAT and getting the score is, I would say, just half the journey, and the other half is still there, which most of the students are not prepared or.
Actually,
Right?
People tell me GMAT's 30%. The other part is 70%.
Yeah. So
Once
so
they're done
we,
with the GMAT, they said, this was easy, Rajat. Tell me the other piece.
Absolutely, I'll say this. I mean, we just don't know how difficult the other process is because in the Indian education system, you get some really nice marks and then you are just in, right? But here, the application process is really serious, which means that I actually had to spend time knowing my motivation, knowing what my strength is, and it cannot be a generalized statement saying I want to get into sustainability. 75-80% of the applicants who will write an application use the theme sustainability, so it's so overly used. So it's more about getting into those precise pointers and asking those right questions as to why I want to do it, what will I do with it. If I have a big network, then what? How will that network support me with the long term goals that I have? And brainstorming sessions with Dr. Hubert really helped me do that. He would challenge me on a lot of statements that I will write in my application saying that, okay, how will an MBA do
I'm going to
this?
stop you there, Ayush.
Yeah.
You have to give me two instances.
I no, even the first one, which is the broader. When I initially started writing applications, I started writing saying that, okay, I want to, after my MBA, I want to be a part of a sustainability sector in A, B, and C. I said even in Gates Foundation or BCG or, and then Dr. Hubert was like, sustainability in all these places are so different, right? Sustainability in Gates Foundation is not similar to what it is in BCG, and it's not similar to what it will be in a different organization. So he really pushed me to go deep into what do I want to do in sustainability, whether this will be carbon emissions, will this be GovTech, will this be, so I had to identify all those themes in particular, and then say that okay, I've worked in GovTech, I want to shift here, and then this is the bridge. I come to ESA, I will meet this faculty, I will take up this course, and you have to tie all these pointers that are there in your head and all those fancy words together into one piece of
So
application.
fundamentally, it's visualization to really say, visualize where you are, from where you are to where you want to go, and give me all the milestones in between. Be as specific as you can be, so that no one can kind of figure out the flaw in your journey.
Absolutely, and which means that you will really have to know yourself better. You cannot just sit there and lie saying that okay, I want to do this, even when you are passionate about something else. So you really have to be honest, know what your motivation is, and then see what are the dots that you will have to connect to actually reach there. So that's one part of the application, right? But then there's also another thing that the schools look for as to what addition will I do if I come to that classroom, right? Especially ESA is a case based, which means that teachers will just let students bring out their points, right? So what sort of contribution can I add to a classroom? How will I help increase the knowledge of my peers? So I had to find space for that in my application, saying that okay, I have worked in this is something of an emerge. So I've worked in digital transformation. Most of the organizations are going through digital transformation. So I can actually help my peers understand what are the challenges that they face in the initial stage, rollout, post rollout. So bring out those elements as to how you can uniquely contribute to a classroom that is full of brilliant students, and you can still help them learn more, right? So that's
So
another piece of
I
it.
want to kind of dig a bit deeper on both these cases. So the first piece over there, we say, you've got to visualize that journey. That's kind of pre-thinking 4 levels, 5 levels deep in there, but it's
Absolutely.
fundamentally the same CR concepts. But the second piece that you really say is, a lot of people struggle with this to really say, what can I add? I am not an expert in this space. So how do you overcome that mental barrier? And this is something where Ayush, you should contribute, Dr. Hugo, you should contribute, because I mean, if as a student going in, you'd have this thing. I'm not an expert. I don't have a PhD here. How can I say I'm going to contribute this? So tell me more.
No, absolutely. So, I would say, and that's where the work experience thing comes into picture, right? So, if you've actually spent some time in organizations, you would definitely know how do things work in business, right? So, for me, because I was there on the ground, I saw how municipal corporations work, how government works, right? What it's not very, and I had also seen how private organizations work. So, I came from a world that saw processes happening both in the government side as well as in the, so I found that this is something unique to me, right? A lot of people will come from JP Morgan and McKinsey, who would have seen things happening with the snap and the next day presentations are ready, but also there are approvals that will take 7 days, and how do you make sure that you are on top of things and you still get them done? There will be series of hierarchies that, so I actually had seen that, I had crossed those barriers. So it takes some time to sit down, and we are always very critical of ourselves, but it takes some time to sit down and say that okay, I've done this good, I've done this good, I've done this good, and then think that okay, what is unique out of this, and then bring that and highlight that aspect of your work. Or maybe it can be a non-work related, that I was passionate for Red Cross Society for 7 years. I was with them no matter it was COVID or not. I led teams, I did blood donation camps. So you'll have to be less critical of yourself, honestly sit down and think of all the work that you have done, and pick up one thing that truly uniquely defines you and bring that out in the application.
Dr. Ubu, do you want to really add to this to really say how should someone think about
Yeah, yeah,
what,
yeah.
how can they contribute?
I would like to explain two things that are important for the Indian applicants. You have to see what I'm telling you is not politically correct. Huh? So you have to understand that when they get an Indian students, they have no problem with their intellectual abilities. They know that they have good brains, they are quants, they are analytical, they have no issue about this. The problem that they have is more how will they fit in this new environment, especially for those who have never been abroad, and if they can contribute to the school community. Okay, uh, the problem that they have with many Indians is that they find them that, for instance, they are extremely competitive. Okay, they don't want to collaborate. They only think of their grades. They keep their time working. So basically, the first thing that we have to show them that no, Ayush is not like this. Ayush is competitive, but of course, he will be also a good friend. Ayush has spent all his life in India, but he has intercultural skills, and there are many other ways of showing them. And he will contribute well. Okay. Alors basically, Rajat, the only thing that they do differently is their food. Because yesterday, what I was at IESE in Madrid, they still have a special chef for the Indians because, of course, Indians for that they will not meet, but for the rest, they will it will work. And then when we work with our Indian students, especially those who are aiming top school, because you have to see, Rajat, that not all of them are aiming got a Sven 30. Many are happy with Warwick Business School, with City, with IE, and with such schools. Anyway, they cannot get anything else. So what do? We do two things. First of all, we make sure that they apply to many schools, because you have to mitigate the risk. You cannot apply to just one or two schools. And what's something that I've learned with Indians is that for me, when I have like a European or an African or someone from the Middle East or someone from South America, for me there's a gap between INSEAD and HEC already, or even between INSEAD and IESE. Okay, for an Indian, no. If you don't get INSEAD, you don't get HEC, you don't get LBS, and you don't get IESE. Okay, it's the same level. Okay, so basically that's why when I see a student get refused at LBS, I said to myself, there will be no Oxford, no Cambridge, no whatever, and we have to reassess the approach. The second thing is that you have to take no risk. So basically, you cannot say, I'm a consultant, I want to become an investment banker. No, 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 no. If you say that, it's too difficult. They don't want to buy. You have to do something very easy. So basically, you have to make sure that you have to make them international profile, show them that they have the right values, and also show them that what they want to do is easy. For instance, I will never say, I don't know, I'm a consultant, I want to become an investment banker, and I want to stay in Spain, where they know that you have a 1 year visa, you don't speak the language, etc. You have to be very, very, very careful. So there are things that you to say and things that you cannot say. For instance, if you study in Spain, don't say that you want to stay in Spain if you don't speak the language. If you want to make a big switch, yes, you can do it, but don't mention it, etc., because it's too risky. Alors, Ayush knows someone that we've interviewed in June who is going to make a switch from consulting to investment banking. Same thing, Ayush is making a big switch. So basically, he has done it, okay? But it's not something that we have mentioned in the application because it would have been too risky. And don't forget that in reality, when I say 8% acceptance rate, in reality, it is for Indian nationals who have been all their life in India, we're probably closer to 4%. Okay, so that's unfortunately the thing. So apply to many schools, don't be risky, and show them that you're the right person. Now, Ayush is an extremely nice person. You can see from his face. I know that in India you practice astrology, and you practice astrology from the face. So you can see that he's a nice person, that he's calm, intelligent, and that's something that they have appreciated in you. And I know that they are very happy with you because professionally you're doing very well. And I would like you to explain to us what's going on now in your life. And second of all, you're a top grader. You're in the top 5% of the class, top 5, top 10%. Ayush, hello.
Yes,
You
yes,
are
Dr.
mute.
Hubert. Yeah,
Ayush.
so,
You are top
yeah.
5%, top 10% of the class. What
He's
would
from
you
IIT
say?
Roorkee. Of course he'll be. Yes.
No, no, no. Yeah, so I would say first year was really nice. It was tough.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
It was tough, but I was able to pull off,
So
I
you
would
top
say.
five
So
or top
yeah,
10?
I would say top five.
Okay. So I think two or three really important questions from here, and thank you, Dr. Uber, for this. And I
Okay.
see some really good questions
It's
coming
good.
in, and
Huh?
we are going
It's
to
good.
take
The top
questions
5%.
in about 5 minutes or so. So please put those questions in. So Dr. Uber mentioned two things about, one is knowing. So let's start with this question here. Is that a disadvantage if you don't know Spanish, or did you have to learn Spanish overall?
From a school's perspective, no, because ESA is an English speaking school, so everyone here comes and all the
Yes, very
lectures are
well.
there in
Yeah.
English, right? So that way it's not. But I would say that if you want to find a job here in Spain, it's very important that you know Spanish, because most of your colleagues, even though they know English and they'll be dealing with English because most of the firms are global, still if you want to have that interpersonal connect, you will have to speak Spanish, right? And also a basic level of Spanish will help you in these 2 years, because not a lot of people or everyone you will meet on the streets will say speak Spanish, right? Me being a vegetarian, I had to really pick up those keywords really quickly, saying that okay, this has no meat, this is vegetarian, because that's the way you survive, right? So you'll have to have that surviving level of Spanish early, as soon as possible.
Picante. So is it just Spanish or Catalan also?
No, so Spanish is fine. I mean, yeah, Catalan is really close in some points and it's not close at the others. But I would say even if you know Spanish, Barcelona is easy. Even a bit of Spanish, and the other half is Google Translator always in your hand. Just showing them. People are really nice and they'll take the pain to read it on your screen and then help you out. So a really friendly place to be.
Got it. The next question is, I mean, first of all, did you learn Spanish at all? I mean, did you do any formal education?
No, I did not. I had no background in Spanish. I came here and I just picked it up on the streets a little bit on how to navigate my way through. Because, like I was saying, ESA has 3 cases every day, right? So you just don't have time for anything else in the first year. But now I've started doing a Spanish course. Just want to, second year is lighter and I just want to polish up a little bit of Spanish speaking ability. Yeah.
The next piece, what's your, I mean, in terms of your goal, are you going to stay in Spain? Or actually, even before that, when you do an MBA there, what kind of work visa do you get?
Sorry, what kind of?
Work visa do you get?
See, I would say firstly, let's start with the heavyweights. You want to come here and join consulting or investment banking. They're always ready to sponsor visa for you in any location that you want to go in, right? So just understand how do you crack those interviews, and if you're prepared for them, they're ready for the visas. But even there are several other opportunities in the industry. I would say most of the companies that come to ESA, and ESA is aware of the fact that a lot of non-EU students are here, so they'll always negotiate on visas. I did my internship in partially in Madrid and Sweden, and I don't have any visa, and the company got visa for me. So yeah, the companies always take care of that. Mostly they do. Yeah.
Mostly they do. Okay.
Now,
But I
basically,
mean, once you graduate,
now basically,
sorry,
just
Dr.
Rajat,
Hubert,
so that you understand. Again, I want to tell you because I know Ayush. So basically, he's already so he has done internship. So he has worked for IKEA. Huh? Can we say? You don't mind that I mentioned that, Ayush? Huh? So he had an internship with IKEA. He's working on digital transformation at IKEA. So you have IKEA, by the way, in India as well. And what happened is that you have a part-time job with them. Can we say? Yeah, it's not a secret that you can share. So he's already working part-time for them, which is of course the big advantage of a 2-year program.
Just to clarify, part-time during Dr.
Yeah.
Hubert, just to clarify, part-time during
Yeah,
second year.
yeah. Now, yeah.
Post the internship,
It's
is working
part-time.
part-time.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting because he has income. So I will not say how much he has, because otherwise he will have to pay us the restaurant next time I come. So
I can guess.
He's been pretty secret on that. Yeah. So, but he has income, so which is good, okay, and he's getting experience, and probably it is the fact that they give you a part-time job shows that they will keep you. Huh? Okay, if they want to keep you. I don't know. I don't think that you have signed a contract with them. You have signed just a contract for the part-time job, Ayush. Okay, but probably if things go well during the year, you have a job. So you see, Rajat, it's a big advantage of that, and you're going to be based in Sweden, in Stockholm. Yes, you'll be based in Sweden, Stockholm. Okay,
Sweden.
So all that to show that if you get in Malmö, Malmö. So I don't know if I've heard of Malmö. I don't know where it is exactly, but yeah, and GI7 probably. So basically, it will be in Malmö. So the fact is that all the students that have in Spain, you see, Rajat, they at IE or IESE or SAD, they work elsewhere. Many will work in Dubai, many will work in London, many will work in the Netherlands. It's true that maybe they will not stay there simply because salaries are higher outside.
So
Spain.
yeah, so I think let
me ask
me ask the important question then. So Dr. Uber answered this question that, okay, you're going to work outside of Barcelona or outside of Spain. Now, and this is a very blunt question: is the money enough that it justifies taking the loans that you do to get that MBA? Because I think that's the
Absolutely.
big question here.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I mean, if you come here and you come up with a plan, you really work towards that plan in these 2 or 1 years, the money is good enough to, get out of the huge debt that we have taken in, probably, comfortably in the next 3-4 years, I would say. Or maybe people can push it a little lesser or higher, but then yeah, it's
So
good
there's a
enough.
follow-up question then to this over here. You use the word huge debt, and for many people, when they start their MBA, the debt is huge. Now, you know what you're going to make after when you graduate. So does it still seem huge, or does it seem more manageable now?
No, it actually seems more manageable. I would say it seems, if again, there's a if that, because a lot of things can change the way, dynamics of, and
Oh, of
especially
course,
economic
dynamics of
system.
job
Yeah,
market,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
given what
but
you know, given the stats,
given what I know, probably in the next 7-8 years, I'll be back in India, comfortably living life with my parents the way I want to, because I'll be over with the debt probably in the next 2, 3 years if things turn out to be the way that I've planned. Earn for another 5 years here, learn as much as I can, and then start practicing sustainability and live comfortably back in India. So that's the plan.
okay. So I just want to add one thing. Once you do an MBA, you've worked for 7 years, it's never comfortable life, but it's an enjoyable life. I
No,
just want to
absolutely.
correct Ayush that way.
Financially,
It's
financially comfortable, I would say,
financially
not,
comfortable, but you'd never get
not.
a 9 to 6 job. It's gonna be 12 hours days, but you're
Absolutely,
gonna have fun
absolutely.
doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's something that's there.
That's the
Um,
trade-off.
it's not a
But you
trade-off.
see, Rajat,
It's fine.
yeah, when you study at IESE, they have like 3 cases per day plus class. So they already work 13, 14 hours per day. So they know that they have the right material for that. Ayush is
Oh,
not
Maybe
easy.
I just wanted
And
to
the way he prepared the
take
GMAT is a testament to it. Yeah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to take a minute, right? So, like I was saying, first year at IESC is really tough. We do 3 cases every day for 5 days, and these are not like a one-pager, two-pager cases. These are like good 20, 30 pages of
yeah.
cases, really different. And then by the end of first year, you are like, okay, I can do anything. I can sit for 15 hours and still go have a party and then go to my class next day. So it prepares you really nicely for the professional life that's ahead of you, wherein you will have to put in those hours to make sure that you're helping businesses and your business in particular to grow, and then you deserve the salaries that you're getting. Right. So
You're delivering value, frankly. That's the truth.
absolutely, yeah.
You're delivering value. Aniket, I think your question's
And
probably
basically,
answered.
yeah.
So I think you did
Yeah.
a phenomenal job. But if you have a follow-on question, please do that. Yes, Dr. Hubert, I'm sorry about that.
Basically, just
Dr.
what I'm going to say, because I know your country a bit. Huh? Uh, so basically, you have to see that if you decide to work, for instance, in a Fortune 500, an Indian student, if he stays in Europe, will multiply salary by 5. No? And I'm right when I say that. If you go to America, you multiply by 8. Okay, and of course, it's even more if you work in consulting or in investment banking. So basically, I've never seen anybody who regrets. Well, I have students who have finished IE. They work for I don't know Ernst and Young in Dubai, and they get $100,000 no tax. So basically, we are very very far from Indian standards. Okay, and I know how much they were making before leaving. These people, for instance, have multiplied their salary by 10. Of course, life is more expensive in Dubai than it is in Bangalore. Okay, but at the same time, life is nice there. But basically, we know why they go. Because simply the salaries are much higher in the West, and Europe is one thing, and US is even more. And US we can add 30-40% more. And yourself, Rajat, you live in US for some time. You know that salaries are higher in America. So all that to say that
You know,
that
salaries are higher in America,
it's
taxes are
a
lower,
big
so you
big
get a lot
argument
more
that I
in
have
your
with some
hand
Indian
here.
consultants. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's true. But what I want to say is that and you don't have to go to Harvard or to INSEAD to have a good salary. If you, as long as you get the top 20 best European business school, and same thing in the US, or even top 15 in the US, you will get a very good life and very good salary. It's a mistake to believe that Harvard or INSEAD are the solution. It's maybe for some jobs for sure, but for others it's not true. Sorry to interrupt you, but and people they make their, Indians are good at math. They perfectly know that it's a win-win situation. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you, but
So I
there
want to
was
ask a
someone of
couple of.
Aniket. There was Aniket. What the question? Hmm?
No, I think Aniket's question, Ayush did
Yeah,
a
go ahead.
really phenomenal job answering that. So I want to ask a couple of questions.
Okay.
Ayush, you mentioned this. You said IESE is a case-based school, which means everything that they do is case-based. And so you researched a few other schools which you said were partially case-based but not fully. Can you just elaborate on the difference as to what this is and how did you go about figuring this out?
Uh, figuring out
No,
what
so,
exactly.
so what you implied was that ISE is a completely case-based school, which means
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
that you do is case-based.
yeah,
Whereas there are some other schools which are partially case-based, where some courses are
absolutely.
case-based and others are not. How did you go about figuring this out? And can you give me just one example of a school that is partially case-based versus completely case-based?
Uh, Again, so I all of this came out through speaking with different students and alums from that school, right? A bit of this was already available on GMAT Club also, wherein people have shared their experience, right? So partially case based would be, and maybe my knowledge is not up to date, but let's say something like HEC, wherein there will be a few cases, but then there will be few lecture classes wherein teachers will go through slides and you will revise those concepts, right? But then in ESA, it's just case every day, right? So I feel that if a class is not very interactive, and because MBA studies is not easy on the spectrum, rather they fall on the difficult side, especially with finance coming into picture and a lot of data related stuff. If there's no interaction happening in the class, many a times you'll doze off, you'll go to a different planet, think about different things. There's so many things happening in the life.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're there in a case classroom, and you'll see people telling creative ideas all around, and you want to contribute there, your hand will be up and down and up and down. You'll agree, you'll disagree. So there's a lot of engagement that happens in that class, and then through that engagement and listening to other people's real life experience, you learn more. I am not someone who's worked in oil and gas, but I've good, or maybe in healthcare, but I know that you want to do something in healthcare, go speak with the doctor, because they'll sell your products, not the customer, right? So this type of learning comes out by listening to people who were
Case-based
there
method.
in sales team. Yeah, so that's the advantage of being in a classroom where there are cases and people are coming up with their own experience, rather than just looking at bunch of slides and formulas, which you can always look now, and chat gpt has made it even easier to not remembering those
Yeah.
formulas anymore, right? But those personal experiences coming out in those situations are something that a manager has to be aware of, right? You can always do excels with your number, but then how do you sit in a stakeholder meeting, and how do you convince them, and what does your counterparty say? That's more that you want to listen and you want to embed in your memory. So I think that way case methods really help a lot.
Okay. My next question for you, and I think that's going to be my last question, and after that, Dr. Hubert, if you have questions for you, that would be great. The next question for you is, before joining ISC, you mentioned the fact that you got in touch with a lot of alumni, and then a lot of them responded to you. They made time for you. This was what led to your gravitating towards IESC.
Right.
Now, having been there for a couple of years, is the sentiment still the same? And can you give some instances where alumni have helped you, make decisions, get to the next step, and so on and so forth?
Absolutely. I mean, the feelings have got stronger here, coming here and getting to experience this firsthand, right? The close community thing has really been a pleasure, and has really, motivated me further and motivated my feelings further towards ESA. And even during my internship, right? So just quickly on that, I went to IKEA for my internship in summer. And then I found approximately 20, 30 different alums sitting in different countries from ESA. And every time we spoke in, the icebreaker was so quick. And then they'll make sure to follow up with me, see that if I'm, getting everything that I needed, despite the fact that I wasn't in their team or was reporting to them, or the project was related to their KPIs, right? And despite the fact that a lot of people were on vacations, because there are summer vacations here in EU, a lot of my alums working in IKEA came back to me, set up calls with me, helped me navigate the problems that I was facing, which showed that, this, and after experiencing that, I had to tell myself that, one day when I'm in a position like this, I'll have to, give back a similar
Reciprocate,
sort
yeah.
of love to the community, because many times we are so busy in our life that we don't think about anything else. But then seeing so many people think about me, despite the fact that I was so off from their teams, was really a pleasure and motivated me to become something like them in the future.
Got it. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, that was my last question. I think we have dealt with all the audience questions as well. Dr. Huber, you want to say a
Yeah,
few
yeah.
words before I
Now,
conclude?
yes, I've many things to know. I know that there are people following. First of all, I want to tell them that Europe is an interesting continent because you have 1 year program like IE, Oxford, Cambridge, INSEAD, and 2 year programs like LBS, IESE, somehow HEC, because HEC is a 16 months program. So basically, you have the choice, but of course, you don't get the same thing whether you study for 1 year or for 2 years. Okay, so if you want to make a career switch, don't take a 1 year program. If you want to make a career change, take a 2 year program. Okay, even if like Ayush, you have an MBA. Second thing that I want to say is that I have many students who tell me, ah, yes, but if I study in Spain, I don't speak Spanish. What is the job market? You have to say that anyway. If you study in a top business school, you will study wherever you want. Okay, now, of course, if you study at IESE, it's probably not the best country to work in America. Okay, but if you want to work in Europe, Africa, Middle East, Eurasia, it's fine, and Asia as well, it's fine. Okay, so first, uh, yes, if first you're already a consultant, you want to be a consultant, and you want to work in Singapore, maybe INSEAD is a better school, because INSEAD is a campus in Singapore. But if you're like Ayush, you don't know what you want to do, because Ayush, let's be realistic. We didn't know what you would do, and we have written something, but we know that in most cases it's not what student will achieve, and it will work. So when I come to IEC, because I also work there, um, so I talk to Ayush and we have time to discuss. So I see the other Indian students who are with me. I can see that basically they are all very ambitious and they're going to achieve what they wanted to achieve. Okay, uh, I can compare IAC to other 1 year program, and I can tell you that with school like IE or INSEAD or Oxford, it's far from the case. Usually people they don't have much choice after their MBA. Okay, so of course a 2 year program is more expensive, but okay. Now when you see Ayush, Ayush got a part-time job. Okay, so finally all his life expenses are already paid. Okay, so if you consider that maybe we get a signing bonus, the school is not that expensive, okay, and probably getting 21 months to do something else was something that you really appreciate. Yush, you agree? Okay. The question that I have for you is that will you go for an exchange program or not? You're new
No, no,
there.
no, no, not really. So I mean, this is my exchange program. I want to spend more time in Barcelona. Haven't
Yeah,
seen a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
it in the first year. So I want to be here, travel around. So I have traveling plans to Switzerland, Paris next week. There's a week off. So let's make the most of this
Okay.
opportunity.
I
Please come
like
to
that.
see
This
me.
is this is my exchange program.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
Ayush, come to see me next week. I will invite you. I'll invite you.
Sure.
We spend some time, and because I live near a lake, so you will enjoy it. So basically, so that all that to say that here. And now, so the last thing, when people hear about economic situation, so we know that there will be probably a recession, and we are close to 0%. But you have to see that when you go to a top school, you're going to be somehow protected because you're going to work in top consulting job, top management job, and anyway companies, even if the situation is not very good, they need they need uh, they need to train their senior managers, okay, so they are not going to stop hiring people. You somehow protected when you have a top degree, so that's also something that you have to consider. So thank you very much, Ayush, for being there. uh, you see, Rajat, we had we had like 7 students last Friday, who came to IESE to prepare the business case, because IESE they have they have an interview, they have motivation interview, and then they have an assessment day. And even one came from far away to have his assessment day. So I had many students from Spain who came for the assessment day, but I had also Asian students. So thank you very much for what you do. And by the way, Ayush helping. Anything else?
No, I think I want to thank both of you for
Mhm.
taking time out to do this, and Ayush, thank you for the insights that you gave. I knew things about IESE, but not to the same degree. I have a my respect for IESE has gone up, and I hold it in higher regard than I did. So, which I think is really helpful. These interviews for me are really helpful in many ways. One, I just get to talk to my students, which I've not been able to do a whole lot in the last year and a half or so, um, as we've grown. So that's one piece. But at the same time, it also helps me to understand the individual behind the score, where you talked about, hey, I got those 3 hours during the morning, 3 hours during the evenings. That requires a lot of personal sacrifice. It requires that perseverance, and so I think that's really good. Um, Dr. Uber, you've got vast knowledge of the industry, so I think your insights here with regards to, hey, the fact that you may not be working in the same city, the same country where your school is not a problem, because at other places you're going to earn more. That I think is really really useful. Just the ROI of an international MBA from Europe, I think is phenomenal. That reaffirming that fact, I think, is very very useful. So thank you very much. I'm sure this is something that has helped a lot of our students and our listeners, and the recording of this will continue to help them. So thank you, and
Thank you
yeah,
very much, Mr. Rajat. Thank you very much, Ayush.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye
so
bye.
much, Rajat, Dr. Hubert. It was nice speaking, nice conversations. I really enjoyed
And
it.
by the
Thanks for
way,
the
alors,
opportunity.
alors you, Rajat, you know your students better, but Ayush, he knows the person who is behind e-GMAT, and because he just knew you by the name, so you know the culprits, and you know who is responsible for making you wake up at 4 o'clock and 6 hours per day. So
No,
now
thanks to the entire